This is Aarti Madhusudan. I am going to be your facilitator for this morning. Delighted to have a really wonderful panel to speak with. My job is really easy. I just have to ask the difficult questions. And of course, hopefully inspire and instigate you into responding. A little bit about who I am. I run an initiative called Governance Counts and have been in the volunteering space and ecosystem for as long as I can remember. But I'll pause there. Some good friends on the panel and some hopefully soon to be good friends here. So, thank you all for joining. I will quickly introduce each of you just a line and then we'll dive right in if that's okay. So, I'll start alphabetically. So we have we have 4 A's. That's fantastic. Rinku, you might want to change your name.
I was just thinking maybe I should quickly do that.
Yeah, all right.
Let's go for this one.
Yeah, so let's go for this one. Absolutely. So we have Arun. Arun is a long-standing volunteer with eVidya Loka, and we'll hear more about his journey as we speak to him through the course of these discussions. Arun, thank you so much for being here. We have Amit Savarkar, who is who is a CSR lead and has been with Collins Aerospace and has been associated with eVidya Loka through their volunteering project as well as through the CSR work. So Amit, thank you for being here. Anuradha is the co-founder of The Better India. What a lovely name, both yours and and TBI, of course, bringing happiness and joy to a lot of us every day through the wonderful work that we do. So, Anu, welcome.
Thank you so much.
And we have Rinku. Rinku Mechuri is a dear friend of many years. I don't want to say how long, then everybody will know how old we are. But Rinku runs a wonderful organization called Chennai Volunteers that really has changed the face of volunteering in Chennai and in the ecosystem itself. So Rinku, welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Aarti. Very happy to be here.
All right. So I have one question for the three of you and a separate one for Anu, but I'll start with the question that I have for three of you and I will call out the person who I'd like to answer first. What was your reason to get into the volunteering space in the first place? Rinku, we'll start with you.
Okay, so it was a personal reason. I had just given up my corporate career. I used to be in advertising and branding and wanted to use my digital and marketing skills to really do something good. If I were to be very frank, I want to do something which had nothing to do with numbers, as I said at that point. And when I tried to volunteer, I wasn't very happy with what I saw. And that was where I felt that, could really use a structure, use tools and create an opportunity for anyone like me or different from me. But if they had 1 hour in a week and they really wanted to make a difference, they should be able to make a difference. That was the seed.
Thank you, Rinku. Anu, I'm going to come to you now. It's the same question, but I just want to add, a nuance to the question itself. Given your experience of observing how volunteering is happening, and I'm sure you volunteered yourself, what do you think has been your motivation to sort of be interested in the whole issue of volunteering, both personally and through TBI?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, first of all, Aarti, for having me here. So happy to be here on a panel with eVidya Loka and speak about volunteering. So the Better India, like you mentioned, is not a volunteering organization per se, but it plays a crucial role in as an enabler in the volunteering ecosystem. Right. So with our stories of change and initiative, we help millions of Indians not just discover volunteering opportunities, but also feel inspired to be part of the change movement, thus giving fuel to the engine of impact. So from our very early days, we noticed that every story of ours covering a change maker or an organization drew hundreds of readers to inquire about how they could contribute and help scale up their impact. So we saw several forms of volunteering, so volunteering, I think for us is typically, yes, you go out and spend time, with an organization or something, doing something. But the way we saw it, there were people wanted to contribute time, money, skills, resources, whatever it is, it's all a form of volunteering, right? Whatever they felt comfortable and confident of. So the most important thing was that people started feeling that it was their responsibility to do something too. So when you learn about ordinary folks like you and me doing something extraordinary, it triggers something inside us. It makes us want to do something too, in whatever way we can. So it makes us realize that change isn't so difficult as we thought it would be, right? So in some ways, I think the power of storytelling in the space of impact and volunteerism is that it breaks the shackles of assumptions and myths we tie ourselves to, and empowers us to really, go out with the right amount of information and inspiration to make a difference. So the Better India, like you mentioned, I mean, it started with my own journey of volunteering with certain organizations in Bangalore, and both at the Indian School of Business, where also we were exposed to volunteering opportunities. So both my co-founder Dimant and I were, avid consumers of news and also active volunteers in impact organizations. So we saw a lot of good work happening all around us, but none of it was making the headlines, which was instead focused on screaming out scandals and corruption and crime and all of that. So we felt there's a huge shortage of news that we could use that gave us information and hope and inspiration that could propel us towards affirmative action. And this is where, we felt that storytelling was a powerful medium of change, where positive role models can reaffirm a country's faith in humanity. So with these thoughts, we actually started a blog called The Better India back in 2008. And the rest is
history. Yeah. Thank you, Anu. That was really wonderful. Amit, what about you? I mean, why the interest in volunteering? And, if you can share a little bit of your own personal experience, we will come to, of course, the corporate bit, very quickly. But I'd love to hear, your own personal journey and interest in volunteering, and why are you in this space at all?
Wonderful. Thank you, Aarti. First of all, thank you for having me here. It's a great opportunity to discuss with all of you. For me, I started doing volunteering just because it's a feel-good factor. It gives me a pleasure to be a part of some initiative. And when it comes to volunteering, I'm a product of volunteering, I would say. Being in a profession of IT for 15 years, leading a department that time, and then switching full-time CSR manager, it's a big shift, and that started with volunteering. So it was a time, I think about 6 years back, when I started volunteering just as a typical 1 hour, 2 hour contribution from my side. But then I started leading volunteering events, and then eventually I get the motivation to do something more that I can do. So I started being part of a projects of a company, and then eventually end up in leading a project for the organization, and then conducting several events in the project. So after 2 years, it happened so that there was an opportunity to have a dedicated person handling a CSR domain. And that's how I shifted my whole career to CSR, and that's been happening now. Volunteering events for an organization that I made a part of it, like any projects that we do, all the volunteering events will be a part of the project, not like wonderful. Individually something we do. Yeah, like wonderful. That. So it helps in a way the employees get to know the journey of our projects. If we are doing a multi-year project, 2-year, 3-year project, So
Right.
volunteers are part of the project in our journey. And volunteers are the project managers as well. They are event managers as well. So they also get to know the CSR work very detailed, that organization is not running behind only profits. Of course, profits are important for the organization.
Wonderful.
But it's not only profit, but planet and people also organization taking care of.
Yeah.
And
Thank
they
you,
also
Amit.
get to know. Yeah.
So I'm going to, obviously speak to you a little bit more in detail about, Colin Aerospace's own experience in volunteering. But I want to take a lead from what you said about how, you volunteered yourself and it was personal inspiration. And then, of course, the other things happen. So moving to Arun, Arun, you've been a volunteer for a very long time. So what's your personal story and, why are you doing what you're doing?
Oh, great question. First of all, namaste to everyone. My name is Arun Kumar, and I'm a very proud volunteer of EVT Aloka for almost last 4.5 years. I'm an engineer by training. I'm very passionate about holistic education and especially education in rural Bharat. I'm very grateful for the founders of EVT Aloka and EVT Aloka organization for fulfilling this passion. I have been volunteering at a small village called Upinbetegeri near Dharwad in Karnataka. This was an all-boys school with about 36 students. And I taught English there. I've been teaching actually. And for 5th, 6th, and 7th, I saw the same children move from different classes to standards to various classes. And I've also been involved with LFH. It's called Learning from Home during the COVID time. We had clusters of 5 students having their little cell phones, and then they were still learning. It didn't stop. So what I found with all this was basically digital classroom is the way to go. And we have taken it to the next level. As a volunteer, I realized I could do a little bit. EVT Aloka provided me a platform. Now I can take it up and make it even more impactful. We went and populated 21 schools with English to Kannada dictionaries. Now we also got age-appropriate storybooks. Now I wanted to empower all these students. Just don't listen to me like a parrot and just write down. You search the dictionary, then you're going to search in Google later in your life or whatever you do. But empowering them was the key thing for me, and that has worked very well. And we have taken up a new cluster in KR Nagar near Edthore, near Mysore. So these are all the voluntary activities. What drove me to do this? 2 things. One is my passion for education, as I said earlier. And then more than anything, it's a passion for making our country better. We have such immense potential in this nation. As a resident of the United States, or my karma bhumi, I call it, I see a lot of volunteerism there, and common good attitude is very prevalent there. A lot of people volunteer left, right, center, whether donating blood or teaching classes.
Got it.
So this helped me, okay, we need to do something here. And that's how I got into do this. And thanks, we are able to replicate this in my Janma Bhubi EVT Aloka. Thank you.
Thank you, Arun. I mean, so what I'm hearing you say is that a passion to make a difference, and obviously the impact that you're able to see, that you're able to, create through your volunteering, are the key motivators. So thank you. Rinku, so over the years of Chennai Volunteers, right, the decades of work that you've been doing, what are some of the profiles of people that you're seeing volunteering, more readily? Is there a pattern you're seeing, a trend you're seeing? And what do you think? Why do you think those trends exist? Why do you think certain types of people volunteer more than others do?
So I think, Aarti, and I know you will agree with me since we're both from Chennai, there is this steady pattern of volunteering which happens during normalcy, right?
Right.
That's where we build our energy. That's where we build our force. That's where we build our project, impact, define the programs that we need to do. So during those times, I would say it is the youth.
Right.
The energy is driven by the youth. It starts from when they're in college. It goes on to when they're part of, corporate organizations who have volunteering and engagement as a part of their philosophy. I would not say only CSR. So I think that drives it in terms of the quantum and the number of sessions and programs we are able to execute. But then you come to, times of crisis. And we've seen it during the Chennai floods of December 2015 and then January 2016, where we saw 12 lakh hours of volunteering in 5 weeks, right? And then the past 18 months again. So I think it's adapting, it's definitely evolving, and there's so much that we've learned. So if you ask me today, sitting here the past 18 to 20 months, it's been skilled volunteers.
Got it.
About those who can adapt. So we've had corporates who've come forth, and it's been about, tech, education, virtual classrooms, and how to create physical touch points in them. It's been about mental health. It's about COVID tracing. It's about post-COVID health. It's about COVID resources. Anyone who is comfortable with a laptop, with Google Docs, with a mobile phone, and knows how to translate data and pass it on dynamically and collaboratively is somebody who is a true volunteer today. And having said that, our core volunteers or the lead volunteers are still individuals, because those who actually sit at home and say, I'm working from home, and hey, I can also volunteer from home. So you've had these quiet people who've sat there and completely bound together programs over 3 months, over 4 months, right? So it's been corporates, it's been senior college students, it's been individuals, but a handful of them, but they are the ones who tie the whole thing together. And it's been beautiful. It's been collaborative, cohesive, focused. And, it's the essential form of volunteering, which is really filtered through. And it's the same for our volunteers. So,
wonderful. Yeah. So Rinku, so what I'm hearing you say is that the more opportunities one creates, you're able to find that there are enough people who will adapt and respond to those opportunities. So, I hate to look at the disaster as an opportunity. It just creates that possibility for people to reach out and, do stuff, right? But what I'm also hearing you say is that you do see a trend because of the situation around of certain types of people being able to volunteer more and differently. Okay. Just a follow-on question, Rinku. So, I know that, in Chennai Volunteers, we've done some really, really interesting things in terms of reciprocal volunteering, right? Which we've done during Danotsav and things like that. I'd love for you to, speak a little bit about that, because that to me really is the essence of the fact that really anyone can volunteer and there are no barriers per se.
Yeah, I think, like you said, Aarti, and you're taking me back in time. But yes, volunteering has nothing to do with how much you have, monetarily or anything. It's a state of mind, and it's just generosity and compassion which comes through. So we have various types of volunteers. So right from returning volunteers to skilled, to recreational, to remote, and now virtual, and then hybrid, weekend, weekday, you name it, we've categorized and segmented them. But the one that really stays with you is a reciprocal volunteer who is not as comfortable in life or privileged as we are. Most often than not, they are people and beneficiaries in one of our partner NGOs, but they have learned a skill which has today become their livelihood. And they share that skill with people and in turn inspire thousands of people. So to bring to life what she's saying is this young boy, Ankit, who was brought as an abandoned baby to Sri Arnodayam Trust, which is in Kolattur and an ideal NGO that I always place them as. He learned, and he has one hand that functions and one foot or a limb. So 2 limbs which are balancing his mobility. He makes paper bags. That is what he does at the Skill Development Vocational Training Center. So he is our resource volunteer, and he has come with us to corporation schools during the floods to teach children how to make paper bags. And believe me, you don't need words at that point. When they see that boy sit there and he comes with his dignity and he sits there and makes that paper bag, cuts it and puts it together, they all just jump in and they all have hope for the future. And Aarti, same thing, I was thinking of you because 5 days ago, we did relief distribution in Pulyanthop. The person who went and took all the half the material in a fish cart is a homeless person whom we've been working with for the last 5 years with Dinners with Dignity and Karma Store. And he was there with the volunteer team standing over there, and he was distributing. He drove his cycle cart, took it there and distributed the material.
Lovely.
So
Yeah.
yes, those are
Anu,
inspiration stories.
I know lots of stories for you from here. Do connect with Rinku at the end of this call. But Amit, I want to come to you. To now try and understand from the corporate sector, right? I mean, traditionally CSR has been known to support organizations and projects monetarily. We are obviously finding increasing trends in employee volunteering, but it's not without its challenges. And what I really would like, for you to focus on is more around what you think the barriers are for more employees to contribute, because this we all know is a constant challenge to increase the numbers of employees who can volunteer, right? So what do you think the barriers to volunteering are for corporate employees?
Excellent question, Aarti. I think I would answer that in two ways. The problem what NGOs are facing, same is the case with the corporates as well.
Explain
Okay.
that.
So yeah, so I will give both the perspectives probably. I think if I look at the lens of a corporate, then what enables employees to come forward and contribute is, I think it is important to challenge them that this is something we are planning to do among you who would like to take part and lead this and do this, be a part of this. If you challenge, probably some people will come because they wanted to accept that challenge and do something. Second thing, once they accept the challenge, it's also important to support them, guide them, involve them in decision making, give them some autonomy so that they feel, okay, this is my event. Okay, I am leading this. And third is also important to enable them is also to reward them. Reward in, it can be in any form, in the small or big form, but it is important to reward them. Then when it comes to barrier, probably through the corporate perspective, I would say once the volunteer is there, it is important to retain that volunteer so that that person is there with us for a longer duration, not just that 1 or 2 hours. So those are some of the challenges. One is certainly a dependency. I think we shouldn't be too much dependency. We shouldn't put too much of pressure on the volunteer that he feels stressful that, oh, why I actually took part in leading this. Better I could have stayed in office. Second is also we shouldn't be doing too much of micromanagement, because these are some of the things that I have learned so far, and this has certainly helped. And third is also important is giving credit. Whatever the time, energy that person has spent, we certainly need to credit them. It can be as small as sending a thank you note and copying his reporting manager. That also makes a huge difference there. Yeah. And if you look at the probably other perspective of how we can do volunteering outside organization, probably an NGO perspective. For NGOs also, it is important to know that when we approach any of the corporate, to understand what is their volunteering strategy, what is their volunteering culture, because over the time they might have developed something. Some volunteering events are at the corporate level, at the organization level, but some organizations they do at the department level as well. And some are very specific about the domain, about the focus area as well. I think we also need to see that, what is the pulse of the organization, okay, when it comes to volunteering. I think if we collaborate and understand the organization well, I think that barrier also we can certainly work on.
Thank you, Amit. So what I'm taking away from you is one, jointly arriving at an opportunity, exploring what challenges an individual volunteer or a group of employees might have, trying to address that and curating the opportunity on the basis of that, and of course, recognizing and rewarding good work. But I want to take a lead from that whole recognition part and come to Anu. Anu, as you can hear from, Rinku and Amit, and you have Arun here as a living example of some of the good work that they're doing, and they're able to facilitate. Culturally, you know, in India, it's always been considered um, almost wrong to talk about the good work that you're doing, right? And yet, you know, that's the only way that we can inspire others. And how do we create role models? I mean, we're still talking about, you know, Gandhi ji and Vivekananda and Mother Teresa and all of these others. And we need younger, more current role models. So within the TBI, you know, how have you addressed this barrier of sharing good volunteering stories?
Great question, Aarti. Thanks for asking that. And also such heartwarming stories coming from Rinku, right? I mean, that's what really gives that fillip to the whole volunteering movement. You need to tell such stories. I mean, just listening to those stories gives you goosebumps and you want to do something more, right? So that's really, I think, the gap that we filled up. You know, when we started in 2008, the Better India, at that time, the prevailing thought in the country was that impact and what was predominantly called social work, right, was for very few, you know, those who people call dismissively as the cholawalas or charity workers and things like that. It wasn't, you know, as a profession, it wasn't something aspirational, right? Forget it professionally, even otherwise, it wasn't something held in very high regard. And service to society as a concept was something that was believed to be in the domain of the super rich, the way we see large industrialists establish charitable hospitals and schools and all of that, right? So typically, this kind of work was was reserved for time when you were free of daily encumbrances like making a living or taking care of your family. So that's the way, I mean, I think the progression happened. It was also not considered to be in good taste to talk about the good work that you did. That was really how the cultural environment was. But you know, it's been great to see the shift happen when we got into the space and started using tools like the internet and social media to create awareness and to showcase regular people making a difference along with their regular jobs, along with their other responsibilities, with their limitations and their own constraints. In a whole lot of ways, it opened up the universe of possibilities for everyone, right? Especially for youngsters. It started becoming a trend and something they took to quite naturally. I think as humans, we are prone to think positively and want to contribute. It's just a lot of inhibitions that we put on ourselves. And that has been our learning. Once you start telling these stories of others who have shed these inhibitions, who have gone out and done something with their own limited time or limited resources, limited money, limited whatever it is, right? You go like, wow, if they could do it, so could I. You know, there's nothing, there's not that much of a obstacle stopping me from doing something as well. If a poor boy from a poor neighborhood, can actually go and do this, I coming from a place of privilege, you know, how much more can I do, right? So I think that spark of inspiration is needed, and that's the role that media needs to play, right? In addition to showing what's broken and what's wrong, when media starts highlighting stories that actually, you know, light up that spark and help you see the change that's happening in the world, that normal people are a part of. The kind of initiative, the kind of innovations, the kind of things that people are doing, I think it just helps us see, okay, you know, what am I really waiting for? What am I cribbing about, right? I have so much more that I can give. So that's really, I think, the role that media has to play.
Yeah, so I think normalizing volunteering in a sense, right? And while recognizing the good work, but really saying that it's possible for anybody and there aren't that many challenges that will get in the way of your getting started. And really, again, thank you for doing what you do at TBI. I know.
Thank you.
I want to come to Arun. So Arun, this is more to seek your advice to a potential volunteer. What are the things that they must think about before signing up to volunteer?
Great question again. Thank you. So really, I would like to use the acronym PENS, P-E-N-S. Passion, empathy, national pride, and sense of common good. I think sense of common good is very important. It is opposite of selfishness. And I personally believe volunteers will be very successful if they have this value in them. Second one, or the primary fuel, is the passion. You need to have that passion, and that is your energy. That's your booster that keeps you going in, day out. And this is something I would say you want to, this is what you want to see with all this. You can just sense it when people come to you, want to sign up. I'm sure many of you have seen that. And national pride, I think it's a very key thing. This is a pan-Indian or Bharatiya triad we need to cultivate or see in volunteers. It doesn't matter if I'm in Mysore, if I had to teach a kid in Jharkhand or Uttarakhand or West Bengal, we need to do that, and it's happening. I think the social media is helping bridge this gap, as Anuradha was talking about the role TBI is playing. It's fantastic to see that. So I see those four, which are very important, and you can cultivate good volunteers. Are they empathic, or do they have passion? You have to have a sense of national pride. We have somehow, somewhere, we have missed our sense of what we are. And I think that has to come back. And this will help with the common good. I see common good wherever I see. We have done, as somebody mentioned, we have done it before without talking about it. But something we need to advertise now. People have forgotten. Joint families have gone. And TBI plays the role of the family here to bring us all together. And this is what I think would perhaps are the key triads I would see in a volunteer. And I will add an additional letter called A, PENSA, is affirmation. How do you keep these volunteers? How do you keep them engaged? Affirmation, affirmation, affirmation. A simple end of the program feedback, or a simple acknowledgement from, in fact, they have various touch points. I'll take my own example in the engagement chain. I have students, I have recipients, or people who get my service. Then there are the class assistants, there are the regional coordinators and the institutes. If these touch points engage with the volunteers, there's a tremendous sense of, oh, my work is being, we all end of the day needs a pat in the back. Most of us, some of us can do without all that pat in the back, but especially the budding volunteers need that to nurture them and give that water and energy. So affirmation, if we can do, that is excellent. And then we should perhaps make them very enabled volunteers, let them see what is it that they can add and make it better. And I think Anuradha, I think somebody mentioned that we let them grow. And I think that is important. So those two, I would say, are good things to have. First of all, good volunteers, and then nurture them.
Thank you very much, Arun. I think we have about 4 minutes more. So I just wanted to summarize what you said. And I know Rinku does this very well at Chennai Volunteers. And I know eVidyaloka does it, obviously. That's how you've grown the volunteer strength, is to really look at what is a volunteer capable of doing and curating the opportunity basis that volunteer, right? And, Amit, earlier to your point about how can we encourage more people and employees to volunteer, really understanding where the volunteer is coming from, what is it that will inspire them, what are they good at, what will they be able to do. But, I want to sort of end this with a question back to Amit, and then follow, and Rinku, please to respond as well, is I often hear a lot of young people or employees in companies or even others saying, I would love to volunteer, but I just don't have the time. And I'm very amused because everybody on the planet has 24 hours. Nobody has a minute more or a minute less.
Exactly.
Yeah. So any, last words of wisdom on how one can address that I don't have the time, which I think is a huge perceived barrier. It actually is not a barrier at all. We all have the same amount of time. So, I mean, when you have employees coming and saying, I'd love to do it at the time, how would you respond to that?
I think this is a universal excuse, I would say. Everybody does that. It is they don't want it to come forward and contribute their time. So this is the nice excuse, and we will not have any answer to that. But what I have seen that has helped Aarti through sail through this problem is whatever the employees that they come forward and be a part of any event. So we make photographs, we make videographs, and make a nice story out of it and circulate among the all employees. It may be in the social media, company social media handles, or even our portals, organization portals. And we showcase those employees who has done and contributed their time.
Got it.
So that also has encouraged our
Others
others.
to follow.
Doing why not? I have seen people when they spend just 1 hour with us. They come forward and say, I mean, just let me know how do I can contribute more.
More.
And those are the people. People then they lead events. I have seen people that initially they hesitate, but then they come forward. They lead events. So as I said initially, we need to support them, guide them, nurture them, okay, and make them a part of the whole, the volunteering system, so that they feel that yes, I also can do something,
Wonderful.
and eventually translate into a long-term volunteer.
And then lead the CSR in the company like you have done, I suppose. So you're creating competition for yourself. I'm just warning you there. Rinku,
I always say volunteers don't need time, you need heart. And then
Well
you
said.
follow it up with just making them.
Good answer.
Lovely.
So there are two things here. One is to create, especially with specific reference to corporate volunteering, is about creating groups of part-time volunteer programs, right? So there are always these issues of a project or a call, and they don't have control over it. So whenever there is a collective effort, the pressure is a lot less, and the pressure is real.
Yeah.
So if you understand that, you create, the caveat for that. The second point is, the sooner you can make them taste fulfillment, that moment of truth, as we call it in marketing, the sooner that happens, they are hooked and they will carry on. And if that continues for, say, half a project or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, then they learn how to assimilate it. They learn how to make it a sustained way of life. And I think that is what we look at. I don't think time is an issue at all. It's just about believing it and then conveying it to them.
Great answer. Thank you, Rinku. And thank you so much, everybody, for being part of this panel. I've learned a lot, and of course, continue to be inspired by.
I just want to add
yes,
one point to what Rinku said.
Yes.
The point is, I think all volunteers should visit the place where they are volunteering, which has helped tremendously to reconnect. And
yeah,
I'm trying to build upon what Rinku said. I think this has fantastic impact where they go, where they're volunteering. When they see it, it's a changed world for them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all very, very much. Thank you for being here.